Um, I did a podcast with Zox, the AI note taker, and so
Yeah.
I need to release that podcast here soon. But the whole category of like CRM killers that I'm sure we'll talk about is super interesting to me because I thought that the natural progression was for companies like Zox and Jump to build CRMs, and then more and more and more I started hearing they don't actually need to. And so this is a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, and I can share a little bit of the pain that we've been through the last 2 years in terms of building CRM and the complexities around that as well. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
We'll get
I
into
have a
that.
couple of battle scars.
Let me I believe we're on episode 13 of the Advisor Tech Live podcast, but today is the first day we're going daily. So that number count is going to jump rapidly. 13, yep.
Awesome.
So welcome, Emil. Is that the right pronunciation, Emil?
Emil.
Emil. Okay.
Yeah, it's French, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Difficult to
No,
pronounce.
I don't think that needs to be unfortunate. Welcome to the show. As you can
Thanks,
maybe
Joe.
tell, it's pretty casual. It does not mean we won't talk about very serious things.
No, fantastic. Thanks for the invite. And I must be your guest that's the furthest from you out of the 13 episodes, being based in Portugal.
Probably, yeah. No, I'm realizing more and more the economy is getting more global. I think that with software for financial advisors, I think that because there's a lot of like country specific planning rules, that it maybe is a little more challenging. But I think that it's going to become easier and easier as technology improves to
Yeah.
use softwares across. I mean, obviously, like Google, Microsoft, ChatGPT, like they're worldwide companies. So it will be
Yeah.
interesting to see how AdvisorTech. I know that some companies like Asset Map have a US presence, have a Canada presence, have a South Africa presence. I believe even have a UK presence. Um,
Mm.
but I don't know that many tech companies that have multi-country presences. But I believe that's something we'll be discussing as well.
Yeah, I think the tech has been inhibited to date, and I think that's the exciting thing, the disruption
Yeah.
that's happening.
So let's go ahead and kick it off. My first question, which is a newer question, is what subject do you consider yourself an expert in?
I That's a good question. I thought you were going to ask me which book I've been reading, which was
That
I,
one's coming. That one's coming. But
okay.
this
Okay,
new question,
that was a
this
more
question
difficult
is
one to answer.
fascinating for me.
Yeah, I think I'm an engineer by trade, a chemical engineer, and moved into financial services about 15 years ago. And I've always been fascinated, apart from business, but also how to enable business through the intersection between people and machines and or computers. You know, what's the and that we've seen accelerate over the last 25 years. If you look back at the dot-com bubble into the AI world that started a year or two ago, I mean, that happened very quickly. So that interface between humans and machines, we're seeing, you know, in different industries evolving very quickly now. If you look at the Tesla robots that are coming, if you believe Elon on that, fellow South African, you know, you'd see massive change in terms of things like agriculture. Factories obviously already being changed by robots and things like that. So that's really my background is building those interfaces, starting with basic things like Excel 15 years ago to help advisors run their advice practices better. Started on the short-term side. So I'm also involved in farming here in Portugal, the family business, seeing how technology is going into that area. So my expertise, I think, is, you know, how to make humans more productive through technology.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a cool field
At
to be
least
in,
I'm trying.
especially. Is there a name for that? Like cybernetics, the study of that, or
Yeah,
what's
Maybe next time you
Let me
see
look
me,
up
I might have
cybernetics.
like a iron claw or something, or Iron Man suit. So yeah, it's
Automatic
amazing
control
how
systems. Oh, no, I guess
it's
that's more about no, I think cybernetics actually is a good definition between
yeah, it's
human
amazing
and
to see
machine.
how this these large language models have really just put this, been the catalyst for this, um, and have kind of crept into the realm of professional services. And I know there's been a lot of discussion around financial advice, and is that advisor still relevant and things like that. But I think the trusted relationship is very difficult to mimic just with technology,
Right,
and
for sure.
and that's really why the farmer will still have something to do, and the factory manager or the QA person will still have something to do, because you have to maintain the trust. That's very difficult to replace. But the actual work, I mean, we're building AI back office functions now to facilitate transfers between custodians, where the AI is going to be filling in all the forms. Some of these custodians still have manual forms, PDF forms, writing the emails, responding, but you still need a human in the loop because it's a regulated process, And I think that's the fascinating thing now, is how far can this go, and how much efficiency can you create in the
Yeah, no,
process?
I was talking to one AI advisor tech founder, and he's referenced some report that had like predicted 6 different futures of AI, and like 5 of them were incredibly negative. Only one of them was positive. And he's like, I don't see a positive future for humans and AI. And I was like, maybe not unless we build it. And I think that humans can build a positive future
Yeah,
with humans and AI, but I think there are some real risks that we're actually already starting to see. Um,
yeah.
People I really like and trust are saying some things about AI I just like completely disagree with. Um, and I think that it's going to be super interesting to see how it plays out. Um,
No, the future's in our hands, and I think it's a very interesting topic, how AI is going to come into the physical world, and what the impact of that is. And I mean, if you've been watching The Matrix too much, you believe they're going to take over totally, and put us in little
yeah,
pods. But I don't know if it will go that far. But yeah, coming into the physical world, and that what that means for advice as well. We've had a number of our advisors request us to provide them with physical technology to service the clients better. I mean, the easiest
fascinating.
example is like an external screen that the client can engage with the system while the advisor is engaging with the system. So they're able to put in their planning needs concurrently, it's like almost like creating a co-working environment with the advisor, and how technology can facilitate that.
It's I've never heard of AdvisorTech hardware. I, I don't. I mean, the physical phone on the desk and the computer.
Yeah,
I guess in the old days, like maybe had to do something with like the New York Stock Exchange and how trades were made. I think all those guys carried around some like trading hardware, but
yeah,
that would be fascinating if Advisor Tech actually got to the point where it was beyond software to hardware.
yeah. And I mean, it's interesting. I've been following some of your other podcasts, obviously, and following tech in the US, where I think the amount of VC that's available, obviously, makes it groundbreaking in many ways. And the idea that you have a dialer, like some of these guys now have a dialer, which is proprietary for the advisor, and how do you control these communication channels? I think the next step is, how do you control the interaction with the client? And if you're able to provide some kind of a mechanism for interaction, that's a separate piece of hardware that an advisor takes with them, when they meet with a client, to really have a very effective session with that client, that's a lot of value add, and proprietary to your own technology then as well. Just creating a moat, in the process.
There's this company called Oro Works. I don't think they're not public's the wrong word. I don't think they're live yet, but it are you familiar with like the Aura ring or any of the health tracker rings?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, something
it's
like that.
tracking your it's tracking your heart rate and your stress rate and your sleep, and but like combining all that data with like financial transaction data, like I don't know, like a
Yeah,
Monarch Money or a Mint.com or something.
yeah.
And then providing daily insights on like purchases you're making and how your body's physically reacting prior to and after purchases or um
Yeah.
that
Make it more
that's
real.
pretty, yeah, that's kind of hardware. I mean, it's using data from the Aura Ring, which is hardware,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
combining it with software. That's fascinating. I don't think I've heard the concept of hardware in advisor tech until right now. So you're the first.
Let's keep going.
Um, cool. Okay, so that leads into why I named this the Advisor Tech Book Podcast. Advisor Tech, especially around AI, is like on the very cutting edge of this space. I think books have been around for as long as humans were writing things down, whether it's on tablets or rocks or however humans first scratch things into walls. Um, So it's kind of the combination of my love for books and my love for advisor tech. So that being said, what's a book you've been reading recently that you enjoy?
Yeah, you stumped me with that question, Joe. I must be honest, I haven't read a book in 20 years. So
Okay.
since the advent of the internet, I stopped reading books. But especially the last couple of years, I think things are moving so quickly now, that it's very easy to read something that's outdated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fascinated by especially, you know, relevant social media like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and building networks there, and understanding what the trends are, what the thought patterns are, um, reading people's comments. If you were to
What
ask
about
me
like
who,
blogs? Are there any blogs that you read, like Substacks or Beehive newsletters or anything like that?
yeah, I read your stuff a little bit.
There we
It's
go.
probably the closest. Closest, and I read some stuff about farming and technology as well, just out of interest. But yeah, my most interesting posts. I thought you might ask me about that after putting my controversial answer out there. But my most interesting post that I'm reading is a Bulgarian technologist, who's heavy into AI hardware,
Okay.
and building. He believes that you should own your own AI hardware, own your AI basically. Don't use the hyperscalers for AI. You can do it on your own hardware better,
Hmm.
using open models and things like that. For me, that's quite cutting edge. Again, in terms of thinking along a hardware theme, or what would be a next level up in terms of really being able to do a step change in an industry. And I think that it's very interesting for me how successful they are at. Now the latest one is these vibe coding models that are coming out, or the models with the vibe coding submodel in it, and how they're
So
able to do vibe coding on their own, on their own hardware.
right. So like if we're all carrying around a phone with us, an iPhone or an Android or any other kind of phone, why would we need a separate piece of hardware? And I've seen some ads for like the Pocket and some other AI hardware that you hang around your neck or that you put in your pocket. Um, why do we need a separate piece of hardware for AI?
No, I think it will become, at some point it will all be integrated into this.
Yeah.
I think it will, whether it's a ring or glasses or whatever it might be. But this is probably the biggest risk to this whole, what some people are calling the AI bubble, is that the hardware gets democratized. And what does that mean? What does that mean when you're putting something into somebody's hand that effectively allows them to not pay for tokens anymore? Um, because that I think, just in terms of advice tech, if you look at these AI guys that we know all the names, they typically still paying away tokens. They're wrapping the AI service, whether it's Azure or Grok or whatever it is, they're wrapping it, and they're paying tokens away. So their model is typically a margin on tokens. And if they do it more effectively, obviously their margin goes up. Our model that we've started building, and we'll probably go into just now, is, we believe the client needs to pay a custody fee, and that needs to cover technology for the advisor. But how
Okay.
does that play out when it's becoming more AI enabled? And more AI enabled means more tokens. Now, sure, the cost of tokens will go down. I mean, the numbers I've seen is 100 times cheaper than today, but the extent of the service will improve. Whether it's creating video material, which obviously it needs a lot more token input and output tokens, or drafting financial plans, or doing more fancy trading on client portfolios, or rebalances that require AI input. It's all tokens, and in a
Yeah.
world where tokens will always cost money, how do you because traditionally a custodian having straight through processing these days, the cost to serve is much less than it was historically. We actually people and paper, but the fees are still very much aligned to somebody's doing something, which is where the margin comes in for the custodian. But once
What
you
it
add yeah.
what is the biggest cost of tokens? Is it electricity? Is it the actual like silicon in the computer chips? Is it
Yeah, I think it's the
cooling
silicon,
the
and no, it's both of those. I mean, there's some sunken cost initially that need to go into the hardware, and then obviously you have to keep the stuff running
yeah.
with electricity. So it's the combination of those, and obviously, I mean, we've seen how costs come down, so it will become cheaper and easier to have your own hardware over time, as I've mentioned. I'm following. But the question is, if you really want to enable an advisor or the client to make the best decisions on their portfolio and really, get the best, outcome for the least amount of effort, it's going to take tokens. It's going to take a unified data set,
Yeah.
and it's going to take tokens. It's the combination of those two things, and transacting capability off the back of all of that. So
Yeah.
that's going to be very interesting to see how um, can we use the custody fee and the margin in the custody fee effectively to subsidize the tokens. And I mean, we've started seeing custodians bring out AI interfaces and things like that. How far can they take it before it becomes a liability to the custodian, because of the extent of what AI can now do for everybody?
So in the US, I mean, Altruist is like the most modern custodian, and you've got Schwab, Fidelity, Pershing
Yeah.
are probably the most well-known ones. As far as I know, Altruist is the only one like publicly dabbling in AI. I guess Pershing is a bit. Um, and maybe I'm showing my ignorance here, but like, what? It's fascinating that you think the custodian will be like the center of the data slash AI ecosystem.
Yeah, I think your friend and Ultras shares my feelings. If I've been reading some of his comments, you might look at this as well.
He
But
does. No, Jason
okay.
Wink has very strong opinions about custodian at the center of the tech stack.
Yeah, so my background is also from the custody point of view.
Yeah.
And we have our own custodian and all our licenses in South Africa, and in other territories we probably start off by renting licenses, just because of the how tricky it is to get your licenses up front. But there are basically two data wells in an advisor's world. The one is the CRM, obviously holding primary client data and all of that, pulling in information from various product providers, and then there's the execution function, which links to the data well that sits with the custodian. And those two are two separate data wells that you can't really separate the two from each other. You have to start thinking about an integrated data world. The challenge is, if you're just a custodian, you don't really have typically the skill or the ability to be able to really create a single environment. And
Mhm.
if you're a CRM, you don't have the other skill set. So what we've done is we've compiled those two skill sets, and we've used technology that enables a low code kind of technology that has all the security required for custody, but also has the flexibility to pull this all together in advisor and client journeys. So the mix of the technology and the skills actually creates that single data environment. But the more complex part of this is definitely the custody piece because of all the legislation and the power of the where the main efficiency gains are, and this has also been published not only by Altruist but by others as well. The main efficiency gain is at times like onboarding and reviews, and then executing on the rebalances or the actions or new accounts that need to be opened based on tax-free saving plans for the children, and whatever the legislation allows, or retirement, or one of the spouses have passed away. There's a lot of actions that need to take place, not only in terms of the record keeping part on the CRM, but actually in terms of transacting and setting this this up in a separate custody kind of portal. So I
Yeah,
think the CRMs typically don't understand the complexity of the custody piece,
sure.
firstly, and secondly, they charge per seat, prices
Right.
where you can't pay for this kind of stuff if you do that. I mean, even AI startups charging $200-300 a month per seat can't pay for the full extent of the tech universe. So if you look at the latest Kaitsi's report, saying 46% advisor revenue spend on tech, if you look at how you compare that with what the clients are paying the custodians, you can't really compete with the custodians. I mean, I think it's the same in any market. The Fidelities and the Schwabs of the world, they just need to, I don't want to say catch a wake up, but that somebody there needs to, sell AI or integrated systems to them, and they'll start doing a lot more than they're doing today at some point. So I think there is. Altruist has a lead. They've got less legacy than these guys. We have a lead in our market, where we're currently in our home market of South Africa. But we're up against some major competition, billion-dollar companies,
Sure.
number of them that are circling the same pool of clients that we are, you know.
So there's a third data well, though, which maybe you'll agree. I don't know if you listened to episode 2, but they basically said there's the custodian, there's the CRM, and then there's the communication platform, whether that's your phone or your email or even your Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Um, but there's the
We see that as
custodian and
part of
the
the CRM,
yeah,
to be
okay,
honest.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that has to be email, calls, call recordings, phone calls, WhatsApps. That
Yeah,
all needs to be part of a single communication uh, segment of the CRM that gets trolled almost by the AI trying to find opportunity.
yeah,
If you have that single data, single client interaction environment. Um, so yeah, we see that a little bit differently because our tech enables us to build all of that into our CRM. We unfortunately a little bit like the Chinese car manufacturer BYD that have in the latest results now from December, they've outsold Tesla. But if you've ever been in a BYD, I drive in a BYD Uber every now and then here in Portugal. And if it wasn't for the badge, you would think it's a Tesla. So
oh,
we've had a lot
interesting.
of success. Yeah, we've had a lot of success with taking what works in other systems and CRMs and being able to build that into ours to maintain a similar kind of advisor experience. And I suppose it's a little bit like being used to an iPhone or an Android. Even if you're switching between a Samsung or another brand of Android, it's still Android. And we try and
Right.
create that to get the adoption going better, and then we just put best practice on top of that.
Yeah,
And we're busy doing that. The same thing with the communication well as well.
that's really cool. So can you? Well, we'll get into the platform, but can you do like texting and calling from within your CRM?
We currently can do texting and email. We're busy integrating into Microsoft Teams and Zoom and those platforms, so you can actually dial from within the CRM into or via one of those platforms, and then get the call transcripts back again. and make that part of the communication history and everything.
So maybe we should back up a bit. So what is
Yeah.
the company, and then what category is the company competing in? And then maybe your role in the company.
Yeah. So Vantage, we started Vantage 2 years ago. We actually a group of or team. We were a previous team at one of the largest IFA networks, or what you would call in the US RIA networks. So
Okay.
advisor networks in South Africa, independent advisor networks. More on the custody side, but also on the CRM side. And where we come from, we had two different systems. So we had a custody system and a CRM system. So we've taken the different people required from a front office, back office, client liaison point of view. We created a company called Vantage. We have the third largest independent network as our anchor tenant or in this project in South Africa. And we're in the process of signing up some more independent financial networks. And we're also working with data aggregators who have clients that use data, either platform data or other product data that the same group of financial advisors use. So our vision was to create this industry utility across CRM planning and custody, and change the economic model around that to say this is all part of client administration, and therefore, as I said earlier, the client should be paying. And how can we make it as easy as possible and as integrated as possible so that the custody, it's a no-brainer to move the custody. And what we've also found is that, and we knew this in the market in South Africa because it's a little bit of a legacy situation, maybe similar to the Schwabs and the Fidelities. These guys are making a lot of money out of clients, but they're overcharging and not really delivering much. So we have a little bit of an opportunity in the South African market to bring down the cost. So we typically bring that cost down to about 25 basis points from an average of about 40 in the
Okay.
South African market.
So it's
In other markets, it can be a little bit different.
Custodian, CRM, and also you said some planning, some financial
Yeah,
planning. So you're
yeah.
almost uh, an all-in-one, even including Custodian, which I don't think we have yet. I mean, I think that's what Altruist is shooting for, but Altruist still integrates with a CRM and a financial planning tool.
Yeah. So we've got things like Morningstar data coming in, Morningstar X-ray data,
Yeah,
which typically, if you look at the Morningstar we call it terms and conditions, and probably different across different jurisdictions as well. But typically, that data is made available to custodians rather than to CRM systems. So there's another advantage of combining these things and being able to do portfolio comparisons inside of a single world. We've
yeah,
got daily custody data, daily performance data, and you can actually do comparisons and move into house view funds, model portfolios, bespoke solutions that RIAs use within the network. So yeah, that's another advantage of having everything in one place. And then we do a little bit of upselling and cross-selling as well across different product lines. So typically, we'll probably do a demo just now, but it's a 360 view of the client that then allows for some insights in terms of upsell and cross-sell opportunity using things like family grouping and family fees and things like that as well.
yeah.
So yeah,
No,
I
I think.
started 2 years ago. Sorry.
Oh, just one more comment on data wells, and then we can get into the demo if
Yeah.
you want. In my experience, custodians typically have the most accurate data, and CRMs have very inaccurate data if they're being used at all. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's why CRMs are so incredibly ripe for disruption, is because they've done it so poorly. I mean, just
Yeah.
to put it bluntly, I think our leading CRMs have done a terrible job of creating good technology for advisors.
Yeah.
They've really just copied each other and copied the same boring, unhelpful features. Um,
Yeah. I mean, just
so
basic stuff, Joe, like data validation on
yeah,
input. We've done a number of data migrations now, and the amount of effort it takes to really clean up that data it's almost easier when somebody just gives you an Excel spreadsheet and says, "Look, I run my whole practice on an Excel spreadsheet. Can you import that into your CRM?" Because at least you're not under some illusion that the CRM did its job in terms of data.
Yeah.
But I think that it's an endemic problem to the commercial model of CRMs, and again, that's a per seat kind of billing, and it's really just a modern version of a filing cabinet.
Yeah.
Uh, and how do you reinvent the filing cabinet? You get away from the filing cabinet concept and start fresh and say, okay, what are all the sources of data that an advisor needs, and what is the action that's required on the back of that data? You got to have an action orientated approach to the data, and then once
Yeah.
you've saying what are the actions, you've got to be able to execute those actions in a seamless fashion, straight through processing, electronic signatures, electronic KYC and AML. You got to go in that direction, and that's really where the vision came from, to have this all under one roof. The Vantage name is typically giving the advisor and the client a full view of what's going on, and then
Right.
being able to take advantage of the opportunities that
Yeah.
that client has, based on that view.
So within your market, are you like one of the most innovative companies around?
Uh, difficult to say. I think there's always, opportunity for further disruption and, people coming up with very clever ideas. I think our big advantage, and when we do the demo, I can talk about that a little bit as well, is our low code approach. Low code, when we looked at it first in 2019, was very difficult to work with. Had security concerns and also front end issues in terms of usability and being able to make it look and feel like a real tool.
Sure.
And that's come a long way. I think COVID helped with that to
Yeah.
really mature the low code platforms. And then now with the AI being added to that, obviously we're getting vibe coding inside of these low code guardrails. So the low code's already very much set up to work within a system of how to set up security, how to set up governance, how to integrate all of this performance scalability, where your typical vibe coding is still in its infancy. The low code world's gone through 15 years of this already, which is why we've chosen a low code tool. We use a tool by Siemens, a company they acquired in, I think, 2018, called Mendix.
Okay.
It's a Dutch company. So we have a global license with them, what they call the independent software vendor license, ISV licenses. And that's a major advantage for us in terms of technology, where we're not actually building this from scratch. We're actually building it on top or inside of a low code environment. And we have a revenue sharing agreement then as part of that ISV arrangement with Siemens. So Siemens is essentially a partner of ours in this business. It's not an exclusive partnership, but having put 2 years of effort into the partnership, we're now able to leverage this globally and say, look, we've put the foundations down. If you have something like an asset map or a tool that advisors are using in the office, or I don't know, upset Jason, but if he's come up with a way of doing a rebalance in a certain way, we're able to quite quickly create that same experience for the advisor that removes the blockers from either, moving over to our CRM and then subsequently using us as the custody interface as well.
So I saw a stat yesterday, and this is more of a USA question, I guess. 20 of the 25 largest companies in the world are either founded or were
I saw that.
originated in the US.
Oh,
Um, I obviously was born in the US. I grew up in the US. I have an incredible US bias, probably. How does how is the US, specifically the advisor tech market? Maybe just think about the Kits' map. Like when you see the
yeah,
Kits' map, 600 companies with the
yeah,
categories. Um, in our view, Altruist is an incredibly innovative company. But based on what you're saying, it sounds like some people are already beyond altruist in other countries. Is innovation happening even faster in other countries than in the US in this space?
Uh, I think the capital obviously drives the innovation to a large extent,
Sure.
and there the US, having a vibrant venture capital, ecosystem obviously is driving a lot of innovation. But I think what we've learned over the last 2 years is that we can build a competitive product at a fraction of the cost of which we previously built it. Previously being, let's say, between 2012 and 2023 or 2022, over that 10, 12-year kind of horizon, it would have cost us 20 to 50 times more to build what we've just built. And I think that's the scary part,
Because of
because
AI mainly, or
yeah, AI, and I mean, I speak about the low-code platforms and things as well,
sure.
but yeah, AI, low-code platforms, but also the services that are available to be integrated into these ecosystems. So
Yeah.
in the case of electronic KYC, those things weren't possible before. There were a number of these providers, and these providers also had the technology to be able to integrate.
Yeah.
Being able to show a live bank balance and a cash balance, inside a system like this, alongside the custody, and making the custody and the cash interact with each other across a number of banks. Things like that weren't possible.
Yeah.
It's now possible to integrate it very quickly, which is great. But if the service isn't there, you can't do much. The adoption of electronic signatures took longer in certain markets than other markets.
Yeah.
And that drives a lot of efficiency. So no, I think we're on the cusp of seeing a number of these kind of startups evolve. And I obviously read your post, and the one you posted just now, I quickly read. In terms of the challenger CRMs and the challenger technologies that, are they going to become CRMs?
Right.
I think the question is, are they going to become custodians?
Okay.
Because the custodian ultimately sits with the bulk of, as I've said, of the administration, the administration spend goes to the
Yeah.
custodian, and I don't think that's going to change. And advisors don't want to give up product margin, and they don't want to give up advice fees, and I don't think they should be. They should be increasing advice fees as they're providing better advice and better outcomes, not paying that away to technology. So I
Right.
think that's the shift: is, can you become a custodian? Can you at least partner with the custodian in a way
Yeah.
that it looks like you're a custodian and you're getting some of the custody margin?
That's
Um,
fascinating. Um, are the fees in South Africa similar to the US? Is it a percentage of assets under management, or
yeah,
how do you typically charge?
yeah, that's the main model. There are some other models as well, but I would say that's 99% of what's working, and what everybody deems to be the right model. And I think it's the same in the UK. There's been a lot of conversation about, is this fair towards the client? And I think the client and advisor both, agree that it's the best way to compensate. So I don't think that's going to change very quickly.
It's definitely the lowest friction. Um, I think the subscription model is growing. I saw AdvicePay has collected $1 billion on their platform in planning fees, subscription planning fees.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, I'm a huge fan of School, the platform we're recording this on right now. It makes it very, very easy to set up a subscription business. Um, I don't think stocks and real estate and bonds are going away anytime soon. So the holder of those assets will be a huge part of the wealth equation.
Yeah, I think it also has to do with what are the bulk of the assets, and what's the type of advisor that that the RIA is engaging with, or that the platform is engaging with. If it's mostly retirement monies, which typically still dominate most of these industries, then the advisor, the basis point fee model works very well. If it's discretionary money and people see it more like a stockbroking kind of account, which is less advice and more kind of investment flavor to it, and more planning flavor, then I think there's probably some room to say, well, why should I be paying that much on my discretionary savings versus my compulsory money? So
Right.
so it just depends how that's going to play out. But if you just look at Europe at the moment, a lot of these social security kind of thinking from 20, 30 years ago is evaporating, and people are starting to save for their own retirements within legislated compulsory products where they get tax benefits and things like that. So we're going to probably see an advice flavor getting added to what typically has been the realm of private bankers in Europe. Will become more like the market that in the US and the UK and South Africa and Australia and Canada to an
Okay.
extent. So I think the need for advice is going to increase. It's not going to decrease. And the need for custodians that can, accurately calculate the taxes and the apply the legislation in innovative ways that makes all of this very flexible for the advisor and the client. They're going to win.
Do you guys talk about life planning much? Because I think investment management and financial planning are
Yeah,
actually incredibly boring. And I in a conversation I had yesterday, I think that's why advisors are so bad at marketing, is because it's an incredibly boring subject. Nobody, hardly anybody cares about it. To an extent, what people care about is, are they able to do the things in their
yeah,
life that they want to do? Um,
yeah.
and I almost
No,
feel
it's
like
it's a
life
good
planning
question.
is going to become the focus, and the investment management and financial planning is almost going to be like
Yeah,
commoditized away.
yeah. No, absolutely. I think that people are becoming more entrepreneurial. I mean, we're being forced to be more entrepreneurial given
Right.
the rate of change,
Yeah.
and that means that you got to look at your life. I mean, I think in the States it's probably been the same. In the past, people worked for the same organization, or your parents worked for the same organization for 40 years. We're not we That's changing,
Yeah.
and the advice that people are getting should change along with that, and take that into consideration. And I think that's really where advisors need the tooling. I mean, you can have something like an asset map that shows income and expenses and what free cash flow you have and what you should do that with that. But I think more, there needs to be more. And it's very interesting if you go onto ChatGPT 5 now, and I think a lot of people have done that. Put in, I'm a 45-year-old with 3 kids, and they're this age, and my wife's a doctor, and this is what we're doing. And you put your life plan into ChatGPT, it's going to give you something very interesting. And I want to retire here, and this is how much money I have today. I mean, it's really good at that. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it
So
just shows
you
you
know
where things
what's
are going.
yeah, which means financial planning and investment management, the value is almost nothing at this point. Or
Well,
I
I
don't know
think
the
it's a bit
exact
like
right word. um the relationship with the advisor becomes all the value. The actual like calculations
exactly.
and
No, exactly.
managing the tax rules is going to become worth almost nothing.
But it's the
uh
same thing, Joe, with this vibe coding. If you look
yeah.
if you want to use Claude Code, or you want to use whatever your flavor is, and you use it in your IDE. I mean, you still need to be a programmer to really get the value out of that.
Right.
I can try as an engineer, but I'm not going to get as far as our CTO is going to get when he plugs the thing into his
Sure.
brain, computer, or wherever it's going. But he's going to get a lot more benefits. So advisors that actually understand what is being given to them as the output are going to
Right.
get maximum value out of for their clients. Our job is to give them the tooling to actually be able to do that. So they're not just looking at a piece of paper that says, this is the guy's asset map, or a
Right.
custody statement that says, this is where you are today.
Yeah.
And looking at those calculations, I mean, taking things like inflation into consideration, taxes into consideration. I mean, if this AI is set up properly, it's obviously going to give some fantastic outputs, but you still need a specialist to look at it. You're not just going to upload your X-rays or your MRI to ChatGPT 5 and just follow it blind. In terms of your health. So you're not going to do that in terms of your finances either.
Yeah, no, I mean, I used, or I think it's called Origin. Origin Financial is like an AI an AI financial advisor, and it was giving me insights about my spending and my budget and my net worth and you know my assets building up and then going down at retirement based on all these parameters. And after a few weeks, I was like, this is completely useless information because I don't care two bits what AI thinks about my spending. Like,
No, exactly, exactly. You want a
just
trusted relationship. That's what you need.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
the
that's
full
fantastic.
1% of the AUM fee is going to be paying a human for their wisdom, accountability, and just the relationship. And like 1% of it is going to be for the financial
Exactly.
planning, investment management, technology, you name it.
Exactly. And if you look at custody fees globally, they've all been coming down.
Yeah.
And that has to continue. It is a race to zero or close to zero, unfortunately, which means that, you got to have all of this working very nicely
Yeah.
to be able to still charge that fee and make a margin.
So we have like 10 minutes left, but I'm willing to go. Well,
Yeah.
I think I'm willing to go over for a demo. Let me just make sure what I have coming up. Actually, I don't. I have something in
I
10
don't need
minutes.
to do a long demo, Joe. I can
Okay.
just quickly click a couple of buttons and just show people
the,
that it's not vaporware.
this is the most innovative conversation I've had on the podcast yet. I feel like the global perspective adds something to it just because I think the US gets a bit of tunnel vision about what innovation is and how far along we are. And then the reality is like, no, actually, maybe custodian and CRM and financial planning are all in one already, and we're way behind. I don't know.
No, we all just trying our best, I think. So
Yep.
so yeah. Let me. I'm going to try and share on this side.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Cool. So this is our landing page. Again, we followed a widget approach. So we've got different widgets that, customizable, and you can switch these widgets on and off. Um, and you can take action off the back of these widgets. Things like birthdays, obviously, always very interesting conversation with advisors. And again, that trusted relationship and keeping in touch, is front and center. But adding things like, what's the product split? So really, anything that you can do in Power BI, we can put on a widget over here, and then make it actionable into either Morningstar data analysis or trading or custody or onboarding, whatever the requirement is there. These are typically our kind of platforms that we're competing with in the South African market. So we have a very specific focus on that to be able to easily transfer money onto our custody and into our system, because otherwise we get monthly data, or at best, daily data, but no performance data if we do get daily. So it's really just empowering the advisor to actually move and smooth over that process. We've built the system in a way that we can have multiple user roles, and you can have multiple advisors linked to a single assistant. And you can also just select and deselect that. And by doing that, the view changes, the clients change, the commission data that we pull in is also linked to that. So we're able to show, commission in terms of across different product sets. So not only investments, but insurance and things like that as well. So we're able to pull in a number of data sets and show it in different ways. And then obviously action, upselling and cross-selling and leads and things off the back of that. I'll just quickly show my profile here, and that all then becomes, relevant from a client viewpoint of view by showing a 360 view, or as much of a 360 view as possible from the data sources. So here we have our own custody at the top, on platform investment products, where you can quote and do new business right over here. We also show external investment products, which typically is a monthly feed that we get from other platforms. Banking, we've got a real-time banking integration here that we're working on. Then things like wills and short-term risk products, medical aid. We also have in South Africa, we've got a service called Astute that pulls that data for us from the life insurance companies. So that all becomes a 360 view, and we've now made this executable at the top here. So if it's on our custody license, you're able to execute on it. If it comes from another platform, you're able to transfer it through a single set of documents onto our platform, and that all becomes electronically signable and things like that. And then the real magic is that you've got a single set of client details that sit here across the product or the model portfolios, the custody, and the advice license. So we're able to link up bank accounts once. We're able to set up beneficiaries and relationships once, and that all pulls through from a family pricing point of view. We also do family pricing across entities. So if you've got a company and contracts for your kids and your own retirement products, the price just comes down based on the aggregated asset value across those. And we do the same from a compliance point of view, a single risk rating, a single source of funds, single AML checks, ID and address verifications. And some of these we're able to pass manually as well. For example, my address here in Portugal does not get checked properly by the South African service. So in that case, you're able to upload a document and get it done. So we've got ways around the automated processes. And then the nice thing is that all the tasks and the documents across the custody transactions, the onboarding pieces, and just the normal CRM stuff all sits within one place, and the same for the documents. And what really empowers that is our email integration, and what I spoke about earlier, the communications, the further communications that we're integrating now, is that once we pick up an email, comes automatically into the system. That automatically gets linked to a client based on the email address. You're able to add more clients, and then you're able to see which tasks are already open for those clients and link it up or create new tasks. So it's very quick in terms of keeping it all together, and the record keeping creates that unified data environment, which we're busy AI enabling at the moment to be able to action off the data. So replying to emails, those replies being added to those tasks, and everything being centrally available in a single view is really the magic that we're after. So if I go back to the tasks now, you'll see here that I've got an additional contribution, money coming into my account, and I'm able to see that email that we saw just now having been linked to this task, and then able to reply onto that or forward onto that. So it's almost like bringing the mail handler into the CRM as well, where the majority of the communication gets done. And this is all a real transaction that's being done for this client. So switching between CRM and actually going into the transaction and doing the transaction is also seamless.
Yeah.
And it all runs off the same compliance and AML checks. And if there's a problem with those, it will block the transaction, which typically doesn't happen as smoothly, across these various systems. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's what it's about. We obviously have practice management and setting up users and all that kind of thing, and restricting the rights and everything like that. But the main benefit, I would say, is the fact that it saves a lot of clicks having it all in one place.
Sure.
It makes it cheaper to transact with the custodian. And then we at the forefront of AI enabling all of this, because we already have all the data in one well and not across,
Yeah.
3 wells anymore.
36 wells. That's the way US likes to do it. They like to have 36
36.
different tabs open.
Well, let's not talk about the new oil well in South America that's been unearthed in the last 48 hours.
Uh, so this is a
Yeah.
good question. So like if a US advisor is watching this and he's like, man, this seems amazing to have all my data in one place, what would be the best? Are you open to working with advisors in the US, or is it?
No, very much so. I think maybe I can just quickly, we've got 1 minute left. Let me just quickly share my screen again. What we most excited about working with consolidators. think I'm off the sharing. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So this is what we're most excited about is what's happening in the industry from banks, private equity, investment manager, and advisor networks. They're all busy aggregating or consolidating more advisors into their advice networks. Those guys, and this is again the Kaisis report. Those guys are using 10 to 15 unique tools, and when they
Right.
get aggregated into one group, how do you really get margin out of that? How do you scale if you've got so much technology there? So we're very keen to enter the US market and other markets based on the fact that we're able to quite quickly localize, integrate, and bring all the services into the the um, the foundation system that we've built to date. And then also the way that we've built it is that we have a core system that will put a jurisdictional layer on for the different jurisdictions. And then we're also able to do propositional work and data integration specifically for those clients. So I think our first step into the US market would be an IFA network that actually wants to basically have their own technology, but want to outsource the way that it's running, not to have to build it themselves. But the low code really gives them the ability to set it up in the way that they want to set it up.
Do you have a target AUM? Like, are we looking at 10 billion, 30 billion? What kind
Uh,
of AUM are you looking for?
I've got 10 trillion on the slide, but maybe that's too much to start off with.
I
But
don't.
no, we dream big. But I think because we're coming from a market where I would say 2 to 3 billion US is a sizable mid-sized client for us. Maybe not a
Yeah,
big client, but a mid-sized client. That's probably a good starting point, somewhere between 1 and 3 billion. That's growing, and that we can help to accelerate that growth and unlock more product margin is probably a good client for us.
and you can probably save them hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions on their tech stack.
Exactly.
That's
We we
amazing.
just
Yeah.
we just look at the numbers that came out in that report, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, it's been great chatting. I absolutely love this. Thanks for coming on, and I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Talk
Thanks
to
for
you later.
having me. Cheers.
Bye bye.